Kam Meghalaya Pradesh Congress Committee akan ritrik ulber aja punde kalau kena jor ya ka sarkar jala luar ka Mang tyngka ne ka budget badang suan ra assembly dah ba ong bakan ne ka Mang tyngka ne ka budget kala banwan ra shushu kijing Meghalaya kam tam ka jing ki ka jing duna kam ba ka jing bamyo benta ki ba ka jing yo no.
Why we are assembling here today is basically to discuss the budget, a little bit of the budget. I'm not saying that we're going to discuss everything, but the intention is not necessarily to find faults, but just to give a clearer view to the public at large. Because I think budget is one of those activities in which the government does from year to year, which is very critical in terms of at least the public at large should also get an understanding of what exactly is happening. So we have a few points that we, as a party, because of course we're not in power, neither are we in the opposition or something like that. So, but then I think it's important for us to at least ensure that the public at large but get an understanding of exactly why we are talking in these terms. So the first thing that strikes us is basically the capital expenditure. You understand, right? So when we talk about a budget, there is the receipts part of it, and there's also the spending part of it. So we're going to look at the spending part of it. And what strikes us most is basically when the Honorable CM himself says that, you know, there has been a huge growth in terms of capital expenditure, in terms of spending and so on and so forth. We would like to also tell people that capital expenditure is basically divided into two parts. One is the capital outlay, which is actually asset creation for the state, and the other part is also a part in terms of loan repayments and so on and so forth. And we have seen a huge rise in terms of loan repayment over the past 6 years or so, 7 years or so, and I think it has touched to an amount which is probably something which is alarming in nature. But at the same time, in the budget speech he had said that in 2025-26 the total spending in terms of capital expenditure for the state is in excess of 6,300 crores. Now if you look at the 6,300 crores, what we keep on telling people is that while the spending has increased, and we give them full credit for that, we do not see that the spending is actually reaping the results in which the public at large benefits from it. Because in today's world and in today's scenario, especially in the state of Meghalaya, we know that the unemployment rate is in excess of 6%, and especially urban unemployment is in excess of 12%. So, but if at all the government is spending so much money in terms of asset creation and so on and so forth, we don't see that the spending is actually going to as many people as possible. I'll give you a very good example. Just in the PWD department itself, there are some data which we have collected. In the year, from the year 2000 to 2022, the PWD gave us a data that around 760 crores was spent by, in excess of that, was spent by the PWD in various works related to the public. Of this, in excess of 420 crores plus, 425 crores if I'm not mistaken, has gone to only one party. You can understand, right? So which means if you are creating wealth, if you're creating an asset, normally the works is supposed to be spread amongst many other contractors, so that wealth creation does not happen to only a few, but it should happen for a lot more people. But then what we're seeing is that whatever spending that the government is doing in terms of this is going to very few people. And that's why we keep on saying that the rich people are getting richer, whereas the public at large, especially the public who are probably in need of survival, in need of more income for their households, is actually suffering in a very large extent. So when the government says that we are spending a lot and the spending has increased over a period of time, the question that we need to ask the government is, please look at where you are spending and how you're spending it also. Because if a large chunk in excess of 50% of whatever budget that you've created for the various departments is going to only very few people, which is a proven fact that we've noticed even in the PWD department in the past few years that has happened. So this is the kind of creation of wealth that probably is not trickling down to the large people, to the large populace at large. So what happens is unemployment becomes even more pronounced. And if you notice that in today's world, especially wherever we go, whichever house we enter and whoever we meet, most of the families, the kind of worry that they have, especially for the children, especially for the upcoming youths of the state, I think this is an indication itself that the government is not really serious about actually improving the quality of life, actually improving the income level of as many people as possible. So which means that they are targeting only very few. So from a capital expenditure point of view, I keep on telling people that yes, while the government is spending a lot more money because of the simple fact that there's a lot of more money that is flowing to the state from the center, because we all know that the India as a whole is growing as an economy, but then the fact is that in the state itself we don't see that the distribution of wealth or the distribution of opportunities is there, and that is a serious case of concern which we would like to at least urge the government to look at it in a very serious way and not to just allocate work to only very few people, because then what will happen is that the public at large will definitely suffer even more in the years to come. That the estimated amount of spending for the next year, even though it's just an estimate, it might change, would probably be, he has earmarked around 3,347 crores. So if you look at that number, actually it's far lesser than the number that you're spending even in the last fiscal year that they have spent, which is 3,654 crores. So we are actually devaluing, or we are going to spend around 300 crores lesser than what we have been spending. So see, these kind of spendings that the government has says, if you look at the various data that are available, so the school dropouts has actually increased in the past year, right? In the past 2-3 years. We have data till 2024. We don't see that school dropouts has actually improved at all, which means that more and more students are leaving school. And in today's world, where the BJP government is also changing the Manrega into GRAMG, there will be a huge social impact, because the way we see it, there's so many factors that might play into role, right? Because I keep on telling people that when this GRAMG scheme takes into action and start impacting people, it is the government who will decide where the jobs will be created. It is the government who will decide where the projects will be done. Now, if the government is deciding where the jobs will be created and where the jobs will be done, imagine the families of certain villages who might not be able to get the 100 days of work which was guaranteed in the past. And if especially they are single mothers, which is 43% of our population are single mothers. So what will happen is that these single mothers will leave their respective villages in search for jobs, and they will keep their children at home, and these children will not have a father figure or a mother figure or a parental figure to take care of them. And this will definitely impact the school going activity. This will definitely impact them going to school, and maybe to a large extent, if they don't get this guarantee from the government in terms of jobs and in terms of income for the year, then what will happen is that many of these children will be pulled out of school. Why will they be pulled out of school? Because they have to go and search an income in order to sustain their families. So what will happen is, if the budget itself, the government is not spending as much in terms of education, if in the budget itself it's saying that we are not going to allocate as much money as we used to allocate in the past, and it has been stagnating over the past 2-3 years, right? 2024 to 2025 it was only 3,600 crores, 25-26 3,654 crores, and now to 26-27 he's saying that 3,347 crores, which means it's downsizing by nearly 300 crores. So these are the kind of impacts that probably we should look very seriously, and we should question the government as to what the intention is. Because if you stop spending in such sectors, especially health and education, you're going to create even more pressure in our society. You're going to create pressure in terms of dropouts, you're going to create pressure in terms of literacy rate, you're going to create pressure in terms of medical care, and so on and so forth. So these three factors, I think, is very important for us, at least if we look at whatever the government has been doing in the budget and whatever the government plans to spend. We feel as if from the Congress perspective, what is most important is these three things, because education is very critical, education is very important for our future. Number two, employment. Employment is the most important factor, because everywhere we go, every family we meet, and everywhere you go in the state, a lot of people face the pressure that we feel for our families, because we feel for our children, because if they become a graduate, if they finish their education, they're not going to get jobs. But with the kind of action in which this government is doing as of today, I can guarantee you that jobs will be even far and less to come by. Because most of the wealth, most of the creation of jobs opportunities is only going to very few hands. And these few hands are becoming even richer and richer by the day, but then the public at large is suffering, and is suffering to a very large extent. And we feel as if poverty is something which is a major factor. I think we all are aware, Niti Ayog, even in the Niti Ayog report that has come out, right? The multi-dimensional poverty in the state is to the tune of 27.79%. Of course, this is a figure which is 2 years old, but then I don't think so that there's any improvement in today's world, because the way in which the government is not really serious about improving poverty, improving quality of life, I think this will really impact a lot of people. So 9 to 10 lakhs people out of the 30 odd lakhs population that we have is anyway already facing poverty as we speak today. So I think these are very critical things that you, from the media perspective, also should take up, should also raise these issues and make sure that the awareness is with the public at large. Because no matter how much hunky-dory, no matter how much flamboyance that the government might show off to the world that we are doing the right thing, but in reality, believe it or not, we see a very bleak future for the state at large, especially for the populace of the state at large, and especially for the youths at large. And that is one factor which I think we have to drive in today. And thank you very much. I think sector, you will notice that in the past few years, okay, so in 2025, 2026, the government has said that they had spent around 2,000 crores in the health sector. And if you look back to 2020, it was only 1,142 crores. Yes, they have doubled the kind of spending. But then, when you look at the health sector in isolation from the other sectors at large, we also know that the health sector is one sector in which the price rise is very high. Even the cost of medicine that we consume from day-to-day basis for even small ailments that we have, the cost of medicine has skyrocketed in the past few years, which means that the inflationary rate in terms of health sector and health equipments and health products and so on and so forth has in fact not exactly the same inflation rate that you would normally get for the prices of vegetables or the prices of food and so on and so forth. Now what happened is that in the health sector, the inflationary rate is nearly in excess of 14%. Now when the inflation rate is around 14%, which means that whatever product we consume or whatever product the government procures for infrastructure of health and so on and so forth, it has more than doubled the rate. So when he says, when the CM says that he is spending around 2,000 crores, and this is not at constant price, right? So this is at current price, which means that over a period of time, whatever spending he's doing is not necessarily that he's achieving a lot more. So if the price of, let's say, a hospital bed in 2018 might be around 25,000, today the same hospital bed will probably cost around 50,000. So there's no use for you telling us that you're spending around 2,000 crores and you're increasing the budget from 1,000 crores to 2,000 crores, because at the ground reality what is happening is we are actually not investing in health at all. And the truth is, our health parameters, if you look at the statistical data that we've collected from a government source itself, right, which is the Meghalaya Socio-Economic Review. You would notice that in the health department itself, in the health sector itself, there's no improvement at all in terms of vaccination. In fact, I'll give you an example that only 70 out of 100 mothers who give birth, they actually give birth in institutions like hospitals and so on and so forth. And 30 of them actually give birth at home, actually have somebody to take care of them. So most of the people still give birth at home without any medical attention from any subject specialist. So this is a cause of concern, right, if you look at it from that aspect. So which means our health infrastructure has actually not improved at all. So when the CM, Honorable CM himself says that we have increased in all of these spending, he has not looked at the factor that that inflationary factor that actually played a very critical role in terms of improving the health infrastructure or improving the health services. So obviously at the end of the day, no matter how much claim you might look at the end of the day in the health sector itself, I don't think so there is any improvement whatsoever, and there is no intention from the government's perspective to even improve that. Because then you have to improve. If you really want to improve, you have to spend a lot more. So it's a catch-22 situation, right? When you are trying to prove to the world that yes, we are improving, our GDP is improving, and so on and so forth. But then looking at these kind of sectors, especially in today's world, right, where we all know that many of the health services and the health products that we procure, even from a national perspective, most of the products are actually imported from abroad. Like it could be a CT scan, it could be an X-ray machine, and so on and so forth. Most of the equipments are actually not even made in India. So what happened is, when you have the rupee also being devaluated to a very large extent from some around 72 rupees, now has gone to up to 92, 93 rupees. So that also is actually impacting the way we are spending the money. So it doesn't really matter if you say that I've increased the outlay in terms of spending of money, but the ground reality is at the root level, at the grassroots level, we see no improvement whatsoever. And I don't think so that the kind of estimates and the kind of spending that the government is saying would even improve that to a very large extent. So these are the small things that probably, in terms of whether it's in terms of capital expenditure, whether in terms of health, and whether in terms, and the third pillar, which is also very critical in our society, right, which is education. Now, if you look at education,